Let me start with something that might surprise you. Some of the most expensive homes in Washington Township never really hit the market. Yes, technically they do list, but by the time most people see them, the buyer has already been just starting to look, but they've been waiting. And if you've ever wondered why a $1.4 million home sells in 48 hours, while a nearly identical home sits for months, this video is going to explain exactly why. Today, I'm going to walk you through where buyers are quietly waiting to buy in Washington Township. I call it stealth demand. And understanding how this changes everything is important, from a pricing, timing, pretty much every aspect, to whether a home becomes a bidding situation or it becomes a stalled listing, especially in that price range that starts probably around $900,000 up to the $3 million range. Then this is important information that most people never see. We'll dive into what, stealth demand means. Most people think that buyer demand looks like this. They open Zillow, scroll through some listings, schedule a showing, and make a decision. Stealth demand is different. So these buyers aren't actively touring homes every weekend. They're sitting on the sidelines and they're watching. They usually have already lost a home or maybe two of something very specific that they want. So they do understand scarcity and they understand replacement costs. And most importantly, they understand exactly what they're waiting for. The moment the right property hits the market, then they move immediately. And sometimes they move before it even hits the market. Washington Township is a bit unique. It behaves differently than most luxury markets. It's not a place where buyers are chasing new subdivisions or interchangeable homes. Here in Washington Township, where I am right now, value is layered. You've got architecture, lot depth, mature trees, street character, and renovation feasibility. And because of that, buyers don't shop neighborhoods, they shop streets, sometimes even sides of streets. Why do they want that? Well, because these lots and homes present an estate-like feel that can't be replicated in this area. And replacement cost has finally caught up to reality. Buyers understand that they cannot buy the land again, they cannot rebuild at today's cost, and they can't shortcut mature settings. So they wait, sometimes for years. These buyers aren't negotiating aggressively, they are selectively negotiating. And when the right home appears, they're decisive, not reactive. So renovated but not overdone homes is number two. These are enormous demand right now for homes that are properly renovated, architecturally respected, and not overflipped. So they wait for homes where the renovation makes sense. And these buyers are moving fast because they understand how rare it is to find a home that balances modern livability with long-term value integrity. Free, privacy, and proximity combinations. So another area of stealth demand comes from what buyers who want privacy. They want a buffer from density, but still close to schools, amenities, and the downtown access. So these buyers are often relocating or upgrading within this existing area. They're looking for something very specific. And they're not looking everywhere. They're waiting for one very specific type of property, which is why when it lists, the showing schedule fills immediately. What actually triggers this buying frenzy that you see in some of these homes? Well, here's the key insight most people miss. Fast sales in Washington Township are rarely about the price alone. They're about alignment. So alignment between buyer expectations, property characteristics, timing, and replacement cost reality. So when all of those line up, the buyer's no longer comparison shopping, they're protecting the opportunity. And that's when you see short inspection windows, you're going to have strong earnest money, the terms are going to be really clean, and sometimes the prices are going to surprise some people. Not because buyers are reckless, but because they're prepared. So what sellers really need to understand is, if you're a seller in Washington Township, this is critical. Stealth demand does not reward guesswork. It rewards being very precise. So sellers do best when they understand who's waiting, they understand why they're waiting, and position their home accordingly. So this affects the pre-market preparation that as a seller you're going to want to do, including pre-inspections and staging consults, your pricing strategy, your launch timing, and negotiation posture. Homes don't sell fast because they're lucky. They sell fast because they are understood. So what buyers should do differently? If you're a buyer, and the biggest mistake I see is assuming you'll have time. In these micro areas, time is the one thing that you don't control. The buyers who win are the ones who have clarity before the listing, have financial readiness in place, and are prepared to buy before they sell, and understand there may be appraisal gaps that need to be structured around. And they also have a strategic understanding of value. These buyers don't hesitate, they act. They act calmly and confidently, and they're very decisive. So, why this matters for relocators. So, if you're relocating to Indianapolis, this dynamic can be invisible. Online data alone isn't going to show you where your buyers are waiting or which streets or blocks even trigger this kind of immediate action. You're not going to understand why some homes never really compete. This is where local market behavior matters more than comps, and why understanding this micro demand can save you months and sometimes hundreds of thousands of dollars. So the most competitive buyers in Washington Township aren't louder, they are just earlier. They are prepared and they're patient. And when the right home appears, they move without hesitation. So they understand where that demand lives. And it's not just interesting, it's the difference between missing opportunities and securing the right one. It's the difference between guessing at pricing and commanding it. So if this perspective was helpful, you'll want to subscribe, because this is exactly how I break down subtle market dynamics in the Indy market. Not hype, not headlines, just clarity where it actually matters.